Hello, benefit of the VOD. We are just finishing up the pings. You know how it is at this point. Bear with us just a
Hello.
second. Okay, copy video now.
I'll put a ping out as well.
Yep. Okay, pinged there. And put a message here. And put a message on the YouTube community post. Pings have gone out, so hello guys. If you're beginning to filter in, bear with us just a sec. And put out a message on Twitter, because why the hell not? Okie dokie. So, I think I put out a post everywhere. So let's go. Let's go. Have we got volume on the screen for the intro video, by the way, guys?
Indeed, I heard it.
Okay, cool. So, then we're good. So, hello everybody. Welcome to this special stream. Obviously, we just announced some pretty big news for Raising the Bar Redux. That is the announcement of Salvation and Triumph, our two spin-off mods set in the RTBR universe. With me today, I have myself. That's me. I will be answering questions for Redux, so if you do want to ask questions about Div 3 and the main mod, you can by all means ask them, and I will answer them. Besides that, though, I also have Amicus here. Sorry, apparently my microphone's a little loud. I'll turn that down a bit.
Hello.
We have Amicus, who is... let's turn it down a bit more. There we go. I can see it peaking in OBS. Sorry. Besides that, we have Amicus, who is a co-lead on RTBR, but also a deputy lead of the Salvation spin-off mod.
Yes.
Where he is basically providing creative oversight and making many of the decisions involving that spin-off. And I also have Iridium, who is the deputy lead on Triumph, the Portal spin-off mod.
Hello, hello.
There we go. We also have giving us questions from the chat and doing us a lot of favors, Entity, who's also composing for Triumph.
Hello.
Okie doke. So, how this is going to work is we are going to answer some questions. We're not necessarily going to answer every single question because there's some very cool stuff we have planned. We don't want to spoil all of it, but we'll answer what we can. For the first couple minutes, we're just going to loop the intro video on and off so you can get a look at how cool that is. Peeps made this intro video, by the way, and also finalized the Triumph logo in advance of the release. Flash made the... Flash, who was the main art passer on Ravenholm, actually made the Salvation logo. We will be leaving that for a bit, and then we're going to pivot to me just playing, like, Division 2 in the background, so you guys can just kind of have something to watch, you know, like your Subway Surfers kind of fun. And then, after that, we might pivot to just showing the fan art slideshow if it's still going. Okay. So, without further ado, Entity, over to you. Pick some questions from the top down.
First question here. I already know the answer to this, but RTX Remix support for RTBR?
So, the way that Remix works, technically RTBR will already be supported at a technical level, but we will not be making an RTBR TX mod. As fun as that would be, we're not going to. Main reason being, even when Half-Life 2 RTX is complete, RTBR has a ton of custom assets and a ton of beta assets, which means that we would still have a ton of work to do. So we're probably not going to be making an RTBR RTX. If someone started putting together a really competent patch for it, then, you know, maybe someone else external to the team could facilitate it, but internally we're not going to be doing that ourselves.
All right, can we expect the release of Salvation next year?
To be determined. It's a. We've already publicly said that it's likely going to come out before Div 3. But because it is a smaller thing overall, it's not going to take anywhere near as long as Div 3 likely. But that's kind of all that we have when it comes to release window. Is it's not a huge undertaking like that.
All right. How long are both Salvation and Triumph going to be in comparison to RTBR when that's complete?
So for RTBR, I'll point out that RTBR is going to be on average a little bit longer than Half-Life 2. I think we've worked out right now. So that should give you context for how long RTBR will be. So yeah, now I'll hand over to Iridium and Amicus to give their answers on that.
Well, for Triumph's looking to be, at this point, more or less around the length of the first Portal game. Obviously new levels, so if you're experienced in Portal, it'll take you a little bit longer, just because you don't obviously know the level layout, but about the same amount of maps as Portal 1.
And
right. Yep.
Salvation, I mean, since it is going backwards through Ravenholm, it's also like the way that the gameplay is, it's a bit different from RTBR, just a little bit. So it's kind of just dependent on how fast you are. It's something to kind of master. So the length of it is obviously the same kind of amount of maps as the original Ravenholm for us. So that's what you can kind of roughly expect.
All right, can we get RTX Remix support? We just answered that. Next question. If you decide to have Antlion King and RTBR, will we know about it before the release of Div 3?
If we decide to do the King, and we haven't yet seriously decided to because it's still a really gigantic amount of work, you will not know about it until it's done, pretty much. The reason for that is that something like the King is like Skitch, right? And Skitch took on and off about a year to like 15 months to actually put together properly. That includes animation and finding animation expertise, coding the model, material stuff that kept having to be redone, SFX, choreography, and then refinement and iteration on all of the above. Now the King is probably a step above Skitch again in terms of complexity. So if it is that we're going to do the King, it's always been a thing along the entire way of, like, we need to be able to drop him at a moment's notice. If the King begins to impede and even threaten RTBR development because it becomes a barrier that we can't overcome and can't sufficiently do, better to cut our losses rather than have it sink the mod. So, if we manage it, you will see that we've managed it. If we don't manage it and we decide to not do it, you will also see that we haven't done it, and that will mean that we will publicly say that we're not going to do the King, straight up. The fact that we're saying we'd like to means that we are actively looking into ways to try and make it work, because it would be super cool. But we can't promise anything, we can't give you answers, and we won't give answers until we know it's going to happen. So...
All right. Are you guys planning for the release schedules of the 3 mods to be aligned?
I can answer some general questions like this, I guess, as well. And you two can weigh in if you want. Div 3 is currently tracking to take at least as long as Div 2 did. So the earliest we expect Div 3 to be out is like the end of 24, but it could take longer, right? So we're making no promises on that. So it could take longer, and that, like, because releasing a mod is kind of a lot of work as is, I don't think we would try to do something as silly as actually try to line up releases for all 3. You know, but it's kind of dependent because, again, they're different lengths. Part of the idea with the spin-offs was, you know, like, there are people working on the main mod who don't always have work to do on the main mod because they're waiting for someone else or something. So we can assign those resources onto the spin-offs in the meantime. And so the idea is, you get more RTBR. Some of them will kind of be like stopgap releases between the main releases of the mod, which are still going to be the ultimate priority, and they will give you guys something to engage with, but they'll also let us explore a corner of things. I don't know if you two want to weigh in on anything else besides that.
RTBR fans be eating good.
And I mean, I don't know if it's been explicitly said here, but it's been mentioned in the Discord that it's looking likely that it's kind of going to be a Salvation Div 3 Triumph sort of thing, with room for that to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Salvation being, as I said, a kind of smaller undertaking, because we have like already a huge platform, like jumping off point for it. Whereas Triumph, we don't. A lot of that is like obviously new things. Whereas Salvation, we're working off of things that we already have. So yeah, Salvation's that's what it's looking for. It's looking to be kind of Salvation Div 3 Triumph.
All right. Estimated length of Salvation and Triumph. I think this is already answered.
Yeah, we kind of already answered that.
Yeah. Let's see. Are all assets you've developed for RTBR... Wait, hold on. Wait. Are all assets you develop for RTBR and that you will... I think he's asking... are all the assets you develop for RTBR and what you will develop for Triumph and Salvation, will they be free to use? For example, would you allow them to be ported to Gary's mod?
So assets developed for RTBR, and that's anything under the RTBR umbrella, so that includes spin-offs, present and future, are not free to use in the capacity that we don't just consent to them being used in every other, like, asset repack and low-effort, like, reskin mod. It's kind of a bit different if someone wants to, like, upload one to, like, Game Banana or something. There is one guy on the Gary's Mod Workshop who I actually have a pretty good working relationship with. He has been actively porting stuff. He's doing it right. And I'm listed as a contributor on all of those, so I can amend credits and that kind of thing. Ultimately, it's not a good use of our time to go fighting over all of this stuff all the time. I doubt that, like, a Game Banana add-on being uploaded within proper credits is really going to hurt the main mod, because we are large enough that doesn't really concern us anymore. But out of respect for the artists on the team, who are modders like yourselves and are artists like yourselves, please be respectful and seek permission before uploading anything. I want to give my artists always the say on that, and generally speaking, anything involving that is going to have to be run through and organized with me, because I will make sure the correct people are credited and that the work is properly organized so that it doesn't make their work look bad, which is part of what I don't want, because people used to make quite low quality ports of RTBR content, and it was quite disrespectful to the artists on the team. So, yeah. So, not free to use in mods and all that kind of thing. If you're talking about will it ever end up on Gary's mod, probably, because whether people ask permission or not, they're probably going to upload it there. I do know there's a pretty good guy there who is currently uploading stuff to there. I might put a link to his stuff in the description real quick, so that you guys can see that this is about as official as it gets for someone we officially support porting RTBR stuff, basically. Let me grab that copy page URL. Here we go. This guy's Steam community page I've just put in the YouTube chat there. He has been uploading a lot of the RTBR stuff. He's sourcing it properly. So if you want to have a look at this stuff, then you are welcome to there. Yeah. Before we go on to the next question, I have left this logo looping for like good 15 minutes now, so I'm just going to boot up Div 2, and then we're just going to play Div 2 in the background. So bear me one sec. And you can ask another question. If the next one is Salvation or Triumph related, go ahead and ask it. Just give me a sec, if it's Redux related.
All right. Is salivate? I'm sorry. Salivation. I'm sorry about
Salivation.
that. My bad. So is Salvation gonna use reference stuff from Arcane's Ravenholm project?
Well, we already have the nail mine. That's very public. obviously that was already in RTBR, but it being used as a weapon, like a view model weapon, is more it's just more cut content that's thrown in there. But yeah, return to Ravenholm stuff. We're always looking at cut content and everything to include into this type of stuff. So we if we don't have it, we are if we don't have it already, we're already. Ugh, I can't fucking talk. We already have pondered things. So
maybe
Alright.
maybe I'll play Ravenholm. Actually, that probably makes sense. I'll play Ravenholm for this one.
Yeah.
We don't have any portal maps, otherwise I'd play those. But we have Ravenholm maps, so why not? Go on, Entity.
Nice. This is an RTBR question here. Just asking anyway. Are there going to be RTBR episode 1 and episode 2? I kind of already know the answer to this, but
No, I think we're currently aiming for Redux to tell the full story that we intend to with Gordon. Salvation and Triumph may not be the last spin-offs we ever do, depending on how they turn out, but they're the only two we're currently planning. And in terms of anything post Redux, nothing has come up right now. The main reason being it's kind of like it's not that we are unable to come up with our own ideas, because we absolutely are. It's just a little bit like when you're making the main Redux story, we have plot beats that we want to hit to tell a cut content themed story, right? So that's fine. Once we get into the episodes, cut content for episode 1 and 2 aren't really relevant to the Half-Life 2 beta story plot, because obviously any cut content for those was in fact based off of Half-Life 2 at that point. So it's kind of a little bit different. So in order to tell a Redux episode 1 and 2, we'd actually really have to have a really solid idea for what happens in Redux's own world, which would mean basically coming up with completely new story ideas, which, if someone has a really good idea and we talk about it internally, maybe it happens, but the main mod has to happen first, and that's going to take enough work. So we'll see on that one. But probably not is the answer.
alright. How many people are working on Salvation?
Currently, it's just a couple team members. Obviously, myself included. Kralik is in on it as well, and then we obviously we include the entire team kind of in the credits and everything like that, because there is a lot of or most of the assets and everything are carried over from the main mod. So contribution wise, the whole team has. But actively working on it at the moment, just a few.
Yeah, I think it's you, me, and you and me at the moment. I think. Oh, and Silent. Silent is also animating.
Oh yeah.
Silent will be animating for probably all the spin-offs, because he's our view model animator. So anything we do will be animated there. So about 3 people for Salvation. Did they also ask about Triumph?
I'm not sure.
Did they ask about Triumph
that was it.
Entity?
No, they just asked about
Just Salvation.
Yep.
Do a quick scan of the questions, and if not, I think let's preempt that one and let Iridium answer that as well. I think if we get a question like that, that's like this could be a question for both, and maybe let's just preempt it and do a question for both, because it's still interesting to know what's going on with both. I think.
Well, I mean, Iridium can also just.
Yeah, Iridium, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, so really, unlike Triumph is a little bit different than Salvation in the way the team members are kind of distributed. It's a lot more come and go, depending on who's available, who wants to do some work on something, who wants to kind of do something different. So I think we've had probably a good handful of team members contribute something so far, and I think that throughout development we'll get more and more team members putting in their 50 cents into the project. Right now, Kralik and I are kind of the main ones doing stuff on it, but not to say the other team members' help is not vital to the team as well.
Yeah, like we have Aiden, for example, made the portal gun entity, his composing music for the mod. It is kind of, because Triumph is, as Iridium says, a different kettle of fish from Salvation. Like, Salvation can be done by like 2 or 3 of us, and we can just like chip away at it, you know. Triumph has got a very different thing because there's a lot more work required from across the team. So you will probably see more people working on that. I expect in the end that about we'll have had like, you know, most of the team will have touched upon Triumph at some point. Whereas Salvation will be relatively small scale always. But yeah. I didn't know there was a lambda on the back of this thing. I literally never knew that. Huh.
Oh wow. I didn't either.
We haven't modified this, have we? Surely not.
No, I don't think so. It looks the same as. It also looks too low resolution for one of our props.
Yeah, I feel like that.
I mean, I guess it makes sense because they're used as caches, but yeah, no, I don't think I've ever noticed that either.
Interesting. Well, you learn something every day. Anyway, entity, if you will.
Right. Will Salvation use any Div 3 stuff?
I mean, I guess, like, we have remastered some things. So things like the, so for instance, like things like the candles that are seen in the church and everything like that. That was supposed to be, done for Div 3 and everything, but that's some stuff that'll be crossed over into Salvation. So, just a little bit of Div 3 content, but nothing super major.
Right,
Yeah,
do
by
you
and
have
large,
plans-
it's going to be quite adjacent to Div 2. Most of the new content will either be unique to Salvation or will be carryovers. Like if we've remastered a prop, like there's an electrical box in this alleyway. This is Div 2 right here. This isn't our dev build version of Div 2. But this power box here, for example, we showed a remaster of it in the latest update, and stuff like that will be factored into Salvation. Because it's general enough where it's like it doesn't need to be locked to a brand new release necessarily. But yeah.
Alright. Let's see. Do you have plans for adding chainsaw base of concept art of Half-Life 2 Return to Ravenholm? I think they're referring to like chainsaw concept art in episode 4.
I'm not even sure about that. A I can say we don't have a chainsaw in Salvation. If that's if you're just talking about a chainsaw. If you're not talking about like a chainsaw, if it's something that just looks like a chainsaw, like a structure or something, I don't know. But yeah, we don't have a chainsaw in Salvation.
All right.
Not
how
yet.
much? Yeah, not yet. Next question: how much will Triumph take from Portal Beta? Will we fight Combine soldiers in it?
Well, to answer the first question, the kind of thing we're trying differently with Triumph is we're not really developing it as a Portal beta mod. We're developing it as a Portal game set within the Half-Life 2 beta universe. So, some elements from the Portal beta will be taken because it's a darker atmosphere, which is obviously what we're going for. So, some of the elements from that will be taken, and we will reference some of the Portal beta elements just because, you know, like how RTBR references Half-Life 1 alpha elements without directly being from Half-Life 1. It'll have its place, but it won't be directly inspired in a lot of places from the Portal beta. In reference to what enemies, allies, and foes you might see throughout the game, no comment on that at this current time.
Just to add on a little bit to Iridium's answer about the theming and all of that, I guess the thing to keep in mind is like we're not building these as separate beta mods. Like Salvation is not our take on Return to Ravenholm. Triumph is not our take specifically on a cut content Portal mod. They're really designed to be spin-offs that function within the world of RTBR and specifically expand the world of RTBR on its own, which is, as many people will say, for better or for worse, depending on how much they like certain elements of the beta. It's, you know, that we have definitely gone our own direction from the beta in a lot of ways. We have our own story beats, we have our own interpretations of environments, and that is going to be true, and already is true for both of these things. So yeah, we will find ways to work them in, but the priority is not that. These are meant to tie into RTBR. That's what we're looking for.
The way I always kind of explain it to people as well is when it comes to R2BR and obviously the spin-offs now too. When it comes to that and the beta themes and everything, it's almost the same as using these things as a concept for us to kind of project our own ideas onto, rather than one-to-one of everything.
All right, next question. Will there be a Div 3 demo?
Yeah, there will be. What we found with the Div 2 demo was it was advantageous in basically every way possible. Not only did people really enjoy getting to dig into Div 2 a little early and get to kind of experience some of that a little early, what we also found was that we got a ton of useful feedback that let us action it, not only for those Div 2 maps prior to releasing Div 2, but also we got feedback on general design principles that were applied in other places across Div 2. Which once we fixed them for the maps in the Div 2 demo and did the feedback for that, we found were easily applicable elsewhere. So, yeah. Plus, there was a ton of media coverage about it, right? Like, a ton of people played it. There was lots of positive PR for the mod about it. So, yeah, a Div 3 demo absolutely makes sense. We kind of already know what we're going to be putting in a Div 3 demo as well. We have some vague ideas about, like... about when we're aiming for all of that, but no specifics to give here as always. But yeah, definitely a Div 3 demo, for sure.
All right, is Adrian Shepard going to make an appearance in RTVR?
In Redux, probably not. Also not in the spin-offs right now. I don't necessarily think we have any ideas for like an Adrian Shepard spin-off. Partly because I kind of think Adrian Shepard is a character that's done to death a little bit about like coming back and stuff. I actually do really love Opposing Force and Adrian Shepard. Opposing Force is my favorite Half-Life. But at the same time, I don't know, I think there's other characters who maybe would benefit from their own take, you know, their own dedicated mod. Adrian's already in a lot of other interesting projects right now, like Through the City, for example, and, you know, if we were going to do something with Adrian, we'd have to be confident we could put a spin on that which is different. And when you think about it, he's kind of just like another Gordon Freeman stand-in character where he doesn't talk and he doesn't have any narrative weight of his own, really. He is still just kind of an avatar for the player. That Barney's different because he actually got characterized both in Half-Life as an NPC and also in Half-Life 2 as a key character, you know? So it's kind of like, well, what would we do with Adrian besides just make a cool combat mod? But that's already RTBR, so, you know, that's kind of where we're going with that.
Are you still going to refine Div 1 and Div 2 with the release of Div 3?
Yep. Refinements are actually ongoing. There is already... I forgot where this went for a minute. There is already refinements that have taken place to both Div 1 and Div 2. The person who's really been plugging away at that is RZ. He was actually very, very important, absolutely essential during the initial... during a lot of the Div 2 testing process. He did a ton of work on that, and he has gone back and he's been plugging away at feedback for both Div 1 and Div 2. I don't know if you'll see similar levels of changes to these two divisions as what happened with Div 1 for Div 2.1. If only because obviously Div 1 is so much... was so much further behind everything else because of just how we developed. Like, Div 2 was a much more solid release straight out the gate, right? But it doesn't mean it was flawless. And we do have more that we're doing to those maps as well. So it will probably be worth a replay, basically, as always.
Alright, will Triumph end with just escaping from Aperture like the beta build, if I recall correctly, or will it end with Zen ending?
Everything.
Sorry, I'm just trying to Can you say that again?
So they're asking, will Triumph end with just escaping like in the 2005 beta build, or will it end with Zen ending?
Triumph will have an ending unlike anything seen before.
All right. Will the blue tentacles that impale you that was cut from Half-Life 2, will that be in the game? Talking about the Hydra.
If we're gonna do the Hydra, Div 5 is where we're kind of currently thinking about it. We think it would be interesting in the Arctic, in serving a similar kind of punish the player for not paying attention kind of enemy, similar to the Barnacle. But that's currently the only caveat we have for the Hydra. If that doesn't work out, then probably not.
Do you guys have any other planned cut NPCs for future divisions?
Quite a lot that we'd like to do, but as usual, probably not a great idea to give away. I guess, like, obviously we're going to do something interesting with the Combine Guard, because we've already made a model for that. In the Plaza area, we are going to do something with him. We'd like to pursue some new Xenian stuff for Div 3, which, like, I guess just involves thinking of some interesting ideas to make the Wasteland have a little bit more life to it, and working out what Xenian life forms make sense there. I guess a low impact one is, like, for example, we've ported in baby bull squids and bull squid eggs from NHP-02, because that whole thing is really cool, so we'll be doing some stuff like that. Just basically giving the Wasteland more Zen stuff to play with. Besides that, we're not porting in everything from EZ2, because I would like us to pursue some of our own ideas as well, but still. I've never seen that before. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Will Salvation have any new models or NPCs based on Return to Ravenholm, or is it just like an expansion to RTBR's Ravenholm chapter?
Sorry, I was reading something. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. Will Salvation have any new models or NPCs based on Return to Ravenholm, or is it just like an expansion to RTBR's Ravenholm chapter?
Yeah, so as we said, we've got the nail mine, so that's kind of front and center. But as for like new models and stuff, yeah, we'll have some new models. Anything that's kind of necessary to kind of tell the story how we want it, and obviously, like Grigori's arms being like a view model and stuff, we'll get a remaster and all that stuff. We're currently using some lower res ones of that, but. Yeah, there'll be new models where they're necessary.
All right. Will you take any notes from Portal 2 beta into Triumph? Or he's asking, will you use any notes or, I guess, concepts? That's probably what they mean from Portal 2 beta into Triumph.
Triumph is going to kind of be a culmination of a bunch of different reference sources. We're going to be referencing the Half-Life 2 beta, the Portal beta, and it is entirely possible elements from the Portal 2 beta will be considered in the development of Triumph. Nothing particular at this time, but as the mod is more and more developed throughout its life cycle, it's entirely possible some elements from the Portal 2 beta might be considered to be included.
Okay, next question. Does Salvation start immediately after Grigori sends Gordon away?
Yes.
Okay, will we encounter Combine units in Triumph?
I kind of
think we
already
already
answered
answered
that
that.
question.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we already answered that. Will Triumph use any models from RTBR, such as Zen Flora, Combine Soldiers, Sins, etc.?
Triumph is going as a spin-off mod of RTBR is going to be heavily relying on content that is already existing in RTBR, as well as creating our new content to obviously, because RTBR doesn't have content for everything in Portal. Some new stuff will be created, but certainly you will be able to recognize things in Triumph that were in RTBR.
Okay, next question. Will there be free TVs? Thank you to Bollocks for asking that. Thank you for that.
Already in.
Yeah, already in there. Already in RTBR Div 1. Can you give any more info on the whole can't trust what you see in Salvation? Oh yeah. He's referring to what Amicus said in the update video.
So in regards to that, you're playing as Grigori, so yeah, just kind of. I mean, you can make your own assumptions to how Grigori is when it comes to his own sanity.
Okay. Will there be any locations in Salvation that you would never see in original RTBR?
Yeah. There's a couple that we showed in the update. There's some doorways and pathways that you'll go through that that like were closed off in the original, like Gordon's journey through Ravenholm. Be it like sideways that were that are specifically for getting like supplies or anything like that, or just ways of actually progressing. Will be completely different pathways from the original as well. Some occasionally, kind of a little glimpse into how Grigori gets around Ravenholm as well.
Okay, here's an RTBR question. When will we get a beta remodeling of the Combine dropship?
Probably when it's going to be in the game, or just when Andy gets to it, more or less. When we remodel stuff for Redux and such, we kind of do it once we have a set piece that includes that model, and Fuss would benefit from that model being in there. So yeah, when we have dropships in the mod, that's when we'll start looking at remodeling it.
Okay, so this person asks, how do you create maps? As in, do you use any references completely made up?
I guess this might be one for all three of us, but for Redux, we use a mixture of WC Map Pack to look at. We typically don't just use WC Map Pack maps as they are. We only do that if, like, the map is particularly iconic, like Terminal Plaza, and so we feel it'd be nice to touch upon that. Yeah.
And obviously for Salvation, we're just we're heavily modifying the maps that we already have in R2BR.
For Triumph, I'm kind of taking a slightly different approach to map design. I start kind of just by just on paper, sketching kind of a general idea out, and then I actually interestingly I use the Portal 2 like built-in perpetual testing initiative just to get a very rough prototype for the map, just to kind of lay it out, so that I can use that kind of as a visual reference when building the blockouts for the maps that are in Triumph.
Alright, do you have any concept art of Combine GLaDOS?
No.
Okay, have you ever thought about adding gas mask citizens? The answer is yes.
Yes, we will have gas mask citizens. They will be around the AirX as workers in the RTBR story. The AirX was recently established as opposed to being like a more like permanent fixture, which explains why the whole Earth doesn't require gas mask citizens. That's really a way for us to not have to put everyone in gas masks all the time, but to still do gas mask citizens around the AirX as kind of the workers who are regularly stationed there. That's where you'll see gas mask citizens.
Alright, how long have you been working on Raising the Bar Redux side projects for?
I think just about since the start of this year for both projects. Kralik, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, I think that's accurate. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, for both Salvation and Triumph. Obviously, Redux takes priority, and we've had different priorities here and there, on and off. But yeah.
Yeah, if something in the main mod needs more attention, we almost always pivot to that and get that done, because as usual, the main mod takes priority.
And as Kralik might have said before, both Triumph and Salvation will go if they have to, if it means to keep the main mod alive. So the main mod will never ever actually be in any concern of failing due to these side projects.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, next question. Will there be any weapons and story beats in Salvation from Return to Ravenholm?
As for story beats, we won't go into any detail on that. Weapons, we've got the nail mine.
Okay, I think this is kind of a joke question, but remastered Cash, Van, and Div 3 confirmed?
Oh, that was from when we were looking at the
Yeah.
the Lambda thing.
Maybe. Carl, you want to answer that? Will we...
I don't know. I mean, it
Cash Van?
really depends. We've got a ton of assets to do before then that are important. So,
Right, yep. Next question. Will there be the almighty MP5K plan?
yeah, for Div 5. In Div 5, we plan to have the player basically lose pretty much all the weapons that they are used to and have to use almost an entirely different arsenal whilst in the Arctic to make the area help stand out a little bit more. So, yep. That's when you'll get the MP5.
Yep. Next question. Will any content from Triumph or Salvation make it to the main RTBR game, such as in Easter eggs or references?
Maybe. Sorry, go on, Amicus.
As for Salvation, we obviously have the church remaster and stuff. For continuity, we'll carry over some things. Yeah.
Yeah, then, yeah, so, I mean, for example, if we're remastering, like, the nail mine model, like, we'll put the nicer nail mine model in the main Redux as well.
Obviously, Triumph is a bit more disconnected from the whole RTBR story compared to Salvation, so if any references happen, it's probably just going to be a little small Easter egg thing, yeah.
Alright, are you remaking props to be more high fidelity, but what about world materials? Some of them are pretty blurry.
So, the trouble with world materials versus props is, if you model a prop to the correct proportions, then, like, it's kind of fine, it's kind of a seamless integration. The problem with world textures is because they're designed around the default scale of 512 by 512, if you make, for example, a 1K or 2K world texture, now it's no longer behaving to the same texture scale as everything else in Half-Life 2. And besides, we tend to use so many different textures. Like, if we look at this area in here, it's like, we tend to use so many different textures to split up things that, like, one individual texture being a little lower res isn't as prominent. So, like, you can kind of make up the difference as far as world textures go by just detailing the levels more, right? Whereas the same is not necessarily true if you've just got a bunch of low-quality props. Making higher quality props, and we are limited by source so, and our own optimization, so they're never going to be, like, stupid, like, 4K things anyway. Probably won't stand out too much compared to world textures, even if all of them were replaced and none of the world textures were. So, that's kind of how that works on that end.
Alright, would you actually make the RTBR quiver concept you posted on Twitter? Or, in other words, are there any plans for a Half-Life 1 spin-off game set in the RTBR universe?
That was a very cool piece of fan art by a guy going by unit_374, I think. A very, very cool piece of fan art, for sure. And I really like that people's imaginations are excited by the concept of all of this stuff. In terms of something like an RTBR Half-Life 1, like, that would be almost as much work as, like, the main mod. Like, you'd almost need, like, another team to handle that in order for the main mod to not suffer as a result. I'm sure, like, we'd all love to, you know, have our cake and eat it, you know, have like a Half-Life 1 RTBR that leads into the Half-Life 2 RTBR, but I think that's getting a little bit overambitious even for us. Right now, no plans. If 20 people materialize tomorrow who are as skilled as who we have on RTBR and all want to make it happen, who knows, man? But right now, no, unfortunately not.
Alright, how did you discover this Half-Life 2 mod that you're remaking the Environmental Control Division barrels from? We're asking, where did you get that, and was it a Valve community article?
So that was some interview that was done a lot of years ago by a gaming group, a gaming YouTuber group of a Valve artist. I think it's Laura Kunzberg, I think, is the one who was interviewed. And they were clearly just getting random pictures off of Google because they were just shoving like random assets in from Half-Life 2. That was one of them. For a few days, loads and loads of people in the cut content community were like, "Oh, is this some kind of like prop that was modeled that we don't have and stuff?" And you know, I mean, it's like it's just one of those things where like, I mean, we're cut content fans too, so it can be fun to just kind of dive in and you know make something like that on the cuff. Turns out it was bad journalism, not actually an unused prop. So what that led to was, you know, us having to go, okay, this is actually, the original was a remake from an old source mod that got cancelled many years ago. So we had to rebrand it and everything. So that's how we stumbled, that's how we came across the idea. We still like the idea of using it as kind of like a barrel for like the various environmental institutions in the mod, like the depot, the Air-X, and the weather control, all of which have served environmental purposes in RTBR's storyline. So yeah, that's kind of the story of how that came around. Next one then.
All right. Will there be a reference to Arbite Labs due to boxes with the Arbite Lab logo found in the Borealis 2001 maps?
I don't really want to get in, we won't really get into much of the nitty-gritty of the story on this stream. That's something you're going to have to wait till release to find out.
All right. I'm wondering, did you all get inspirations from anything except from the RTBR beta, or excuse me, from the Half-Life 2 beta?
Oh yeah, tons. I don't think we'd be able to do it all here. For the spin-offs and also for just, you know, RTBR, it's like constantly there are inspirations from all over the place. Like the flare gun was inspired by Alan Wake's flare gun and stuff like that. Like we go far and we go wide as far as finding, you know, inspirational material goes. You can never really have too much as an artist, so.
Okay, this is kind of a joke question. Will there be an Otis spin-off?
I doubt it. There is actually someone who's made an add-on on the add-on section where you play as Otis. It's like a journey through the wasteland. It's not official RTBR in any way, but I mean, that could always be developed further by that creator. I think that's Eeny Meeny's map pack that he has made. That's in the add-on section right now. You can go check it out if you were so inclined.
Okay, have you thought about RTBR Blue Shift?
Well, I'm sure Entity would love that because he would get to be the voicing the character for sure. Being that he is our Barney. Barney is certainly one of those characters that we thought about, but, you know, there could be a story to tell there. It really is about figuring out what is the story to tell with him. Alex as well, you know, like, you know, a lot of the secondary characters make sense as people to explore in more depth, right? It's just about thinking about a concept that makes enough sense, you know, that makes it worth exploring in that way. It's not a no, it's a we don't have any ideas right now.
Okay, very good. Unless Triumph ends up being self-contained in the sense that it will be a standalone mod, can we expect a Triumph 2 in the future?
There are certainly no plans for a second installment of Triumph at this moment in time. Not to say that wouldn't develop in the future, but as of right now, there is no plans for something like that. Again, not to say it wouldn't happen, but that's for the future to know.
Yeah, it's more likely these spin-offs will be relatively self-contained because it's kind of like, you know, we could direct resources into making another Triumph, or we could maybe put the spotlight on another character in the game or another perspective in the universe, you know. So it's kind of like it's kind of like everything, you know. Like if there's a really good idea, maybe, but I predict most of these spin-offs. Like I don't think we'll make a Salvation 2, you know. And I think I would predict most spin-offs will be just kind of, that's it. That story is told. If there's another one, we move on and we go and tell that, you know.
Alright, our TBR question. How many chapters will our TBR have?
We'll have 7 divisions, and there's 2 or 3 chapters per division, so somewhere between like 14 and 20 chapters probably in the end.
Okay, could you try to put in lore that Crowbar Collective made with their Zen into RTBR? It would make sense.
As much as I like what Crowbar Collective have done with Zen, RTBR is an opportunity for us to do our own spin on things. I doubt we will be straight up just using other teams' interpretations and lore unless like we really like it, and even then I think we'd still put our own spin on it because, just, you know, I mean, we're creative too, we can come up with our own ideas. So.
Okay, what about, I think this is a RTBR question. How about easy to bull squid AI, eating corpses, new eggs, etc.?
We actually have the easy to ball squid. I don't think all of those behaviors are enabled, or maybe they are. I do know that, like, we don't quite have the same ecosystem thing going on that Easy 2 has, but we are using the same NPCs, so strictly speaking, that will be a plausible thing.
Question, when we encounter Combine guards in RTBR at some point, will we encounter them protecting the air exchange elevator to the AirX tower with a force field?
We imagine that the first time you fight Combine guards will be sometime in Div 4 with the AirX, yeah. I don't know exactly where, when, how. That's not set in stone yet. But I imagine that's probably when they'd be introduced. That could change.
At what point in the game will the players encounter and eventually fight the Antlion King in RTBR?
I think we've answered that one already about whether we're doing the king or not.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Will Grigori have someone to speak to, or will he just speak to himself and salvate?
He'll have the light of lights to speak to. As in, he'll do his regular ramblings and everything.
Hold on. Will there be a project or something thought of in Source 2?
No.
Next question. What kind of fight will the end of the game have? Will the final boss, if there is one at least, look like its first drawing concept art of the modified console, or will it look like an advisor?
We will not be giving any details about the final boss fight this far in advance, nor maybe ever at all in advance of the final release. That's like, you know, I'll just tell you the ending to the movie before you go and watch it, you know? No. Wait and see.
What's the deal with brush doors with a missing lower half in Div 2 Ravenholm Apartments?
That is too specific a question for me to be able to answer that, to be honest with you. If it's like, why did we do that? It's probably detailing. Like, Flash is one of the most creative detailing guys I know. He operates on a detailing level I can only dream of. And his end results look fantastic every time, so I just leave him to it, to be honest with you. And I'll just continue to do that. So, I know better than to second guess him. Next question.
Will the Combine Guard have breakable armor like how it was intended in the Half-Life 2 beta?
I don't know if it will work exactly like that, but certainly he will have some interesting mechanics to work with. It's kind of important because he's kind of, if you think about like the hierarchy of like boss enemies, it's like, you know, you've got like normal, you've got like Combine elites, and then you've got like the Cremator, and then you've got stuff like the Strider, and we kind of, and Gunship, and we Helicopter as well, and we kind of think the Guard is more of the Strider tier. So we want there to be something, we want it to be kind of like an event item fight, but it's one of those things where we haven't really developed it enough yet, and it's another one of those things where I don't think we'll go into detail about it until it's actually already working in some capacity, because then it's not going to disappoint anybody, or, you know, don't like walking back and retracting things, just better to see it when it's done kind of thing.
Will we encounter advisors and fight them?
encounter them, maybe in the capacity of like at some point. I think it would be cool if we had an advisor that you could encounter. Maybe it plays a story role or something like in Half-Life 2. Right now, I don't think we have plans to make one that you fight though. Not really sure how it would factor into RTBR's story.
Okay, will Salvation only feature Grigori using the Annabelle, or are we going to have access to different weapons as well?
We've already kind of answered that a few times, but you can refer to the article we released for that. You'll have the Annabelle, you'll have the nail mine, and obviously we revealed as well that you will be able to kick for your melee.
Okay, what will happen if you reach 10,000 subscribers on YouTube channel? You can just get this out of the way.
We will be very happy. Thank you. Very cool.
So does this mean Grigori won't be a silent protagonist? Already answered that. Will there be a buggy car section in Div 3 or any other divisions?
Yep. Bit in Div 3, very little bit in Div 4.
Will there be Combine Assassins?
We will not be doing the female Combine Assassins because I think they're overdone and I think the design is lame. We might... I also don't like that kind of gameplay. Like, I think the Half-Life 1 Assassins are the worst enemy in the game. So maybe, like, we'll make a reference to them in the Hyperborea or something, like in the concept art and stuff suggested, but that would be, like, the most extent to which they would feature in the mod.
Okay, two-part question. Will the removed creature Hydra... So will Hydra be in the in RTBR? Already answered that. Are there any future projects of yours? And Source, we already answered that. Apologies, should have got that out of the way. Next question. What kind of enemies will we encounter in Salvation? New types of headcrabs and zombies, new Zen creatures, maybe new Combine types, whole new type of original enemies, bosses. So, actually, Amicus...
Amicus?
Entity cut out. He was saying that he had to be right back and told you, Kralik, to answer the questions for the time being.
Yeah, you want to answer this question?
Yeah, sure. At present, no new enemy types are planned for Salvation.
RTBR question here. How would the player go from the air exchange to the Arctic?
There will be a sort of small jeep section that kind of bridges the gap between the AirX and there, as well as some journey that you take at the end of Div 3 to indicate that some geographical distance has been put between these things.
Do you fear Valve might copy strike you?
No. If there's one company on the planet that's probably... If there's one company on the planet that has made it pretty clear that they either directly support modders or just don't care what they do, it is Valve. I am not worried about them at all.
Will the Chum Toad appear as an actual NPC in Div 3, or is it just reserved for Easter eggs?
Just reserved for Easter eggs.
What about a short RTBR spin-off with Barney set in City 17?
Yeah, I bet you like the sound of that, don't you get? I mean, you know, as I say, man, if we have a good idea for what to do with Barney or with anyone else, it's like, maybe that is the next spin-off. It's mostly just like, you know, there are certain ideas we probably aren't going to do, and that just aren't going to be relevant for RTBR, like, ever, but Barney is certainly a character that we enjoy, that we've put some effort into characterizing a little bit differently with Entity and stuff, and, you know, I think he certainly, I mean, you know, Gearbox thought he had value, you know, as to be a standalone character for an expansion. I think we do as well. We don't have any plans right now, but that could change, you know. It really depends what ideas we have in the meantime.
I am back.
Whoops.
Okay, what inspired you to create Salvation? Amicus.
Good time to come back.
I like Grigori. That's why.
Yes. Which Half-Life 2 beta weapon is the most powerful weapon?
I mean, I guess the guard gun that's kind of your BFG, really. So
Are you going to fix certain bugs in the game? I was never able to get the flare in the game legally because those combine zombies never dropped out explosives.
that's not how you solve that puzzle. Matter of fact, I've already solved that puzzle on this stream, so maybe you got your answer.
How long will Division 3 of RTBR be? Because I've heard it will be one of the longest divisions because it's taking place in the wasteland.
Similar-ish size and length to Div 2 probably, but like, whereas Div 2 was kind of like quite geographically like varied in terms of being like canals and canals, Maxwell, and then Ravenholm. Div 3 will be entirely a wasteland-focused journey. You will traverse quite a lot of wasteland in order to actually tell different like environmental stories within that locale. But yeah.
Will any more cut content or concepts from Half-Life 2's episodes make it into RTBR, such as the old jalopy, I don't know how to say that model?
Huh. I guess we didn't fix this one. Sorry. Yeah. Where it makes sense, we're going to mix it together. As I say, we don't believe in RTBR being a pure Half-Life 2 only kind of thing. We currently have cut content from like Half-Life 1, Half-Life Alyx, Half-Life 2, a little bit from the episodes already, you know. So yeah, mix for sure.
Will there be an RTBR Alyx? Sort of already answered this.
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes under, like, if we'll have a good idea for her. If not, no. If yes, yes.
Question related to Division 3. How demanding will Division 3 on mid to lower NPCs be once it's fully released?
Probably a similar level of demand to Division 2, I would guess. Division 2 is really our quality standard as far as visuals go. They might go a little bit higher, but Ravenholm is probably some of the most visually compelling stuff we've put out. I think it would be difficult for us to do more than this because it's already pushing the limits of Source to push levels this detailed for Ravenholm. So it's not going to be more detailed than that, probably. So that would be a good litmus, I think.
Will any more cut concepts from Half-Life Alyx be carried over to RTBR, such as the purple cremator texture?
You already have a purple cremator, actually.
Precisely.
Exactly. Maybe some other stuff, but I don't know. I know there's a couple guys on the team who really, really love Zen stuff, but I'm actually not very well versed at all on cut Half-Life Alyx stuff. So really, it's just kind of maybe if something comes up, you know.
Will you guys? Will you guys add RTX support to RTBR for people who own RTX cards? Because I would love to see RTBR look ultra realistic.
I think I already answered that one. We aren't planning our own RTX patch. If someone makes one and it's competent, we'll probably endorse it, but otherwise we're not planning one ourselves.
Will the cut advisor suit and mask colors from the beta be implemented?
If we do an advisor, as with everything, we will probably reference cut skins of them in our execution.
Will the cut advisor... I'm sorry. Just got distracted. I just got a phone call. Follow-up question to that one. Would there be, like, random color combinations?
I don't know. Can't really answer that one right now.
Yep. Do you have any plans to create another project from outside RTBR?
I guess like anyone on the team. Like, I mean, a lot of us are very active modders anyway. I know Amicus is working on Operation Black Mesa as well, and a few other projects, and I don't know, you know, what Iridium may have planned, and I know Entity is voice acting a few other things, like, for example, Thunder's Leaves, as well. Entity also voice acts, as does Amicus, in a few of my other projects, and Iridium has even lended programming assistance to some of these other projects as well, so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe.
Is there a chance RTBR and the submods will be released on Steam?
A chance, absolutely. How great is that chance? No idea. Certainly it would make things convenient, but I don't think we'd target something like that until like RTBR was largely done. That seems like a big, okay, we're done now, put on Steam kind of thing, as opposed to try to pursue that at any time prior.
My last question will be, what Half-Life 2 beta enemy is the most powerful of all time?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Next one.
G-Man.
So
Yeah, G-Man, sure.
yeah,
Let's play RTBR trading cards. My G-Man beats you. Shut up. Next.
Anyways, when are you guys gonna release Division 3?
When
Did
it's
we already
done.
answer this? Okay. On topic of inspirations, what inspired you guys to make Triumph?
Well, with Triumph, for me personally, because I was kind of, I was the one who kind of pushed to found kind of the idea originally. And for me, unlike a lot of people on the RTBR team, my first introduction to Valve games and indeed the Source engine was actually Portal, which is different. But so because of that, that's also where I first started, working with Hammer and level designing. And before I even played Half-Life 2, I was level designing for Portal. Now, mind you, these levels weren't good, but they were certainly levels. So that kind of, with that, I've always kind of had a special place in my heart for Portal and mapping for Portal. So when, there was kind of just a talk amongst the team, I actually jokingly threw together this little demo of having portals inside of RTBR for no real practical reason, just to like joke almost more than anything. And people thought it was cool. I just had fun portaling around a train station, and then jokingly said, hey, we should make a spin-off of this, and then we did. Now we're here.
All right. In Division 7, will we have a supercharged gravity gun? Is it going to function like retail or like the Fizz gun in Gmod?
Maybe. Maybe not. That's quite a plot-sensitive element again. I think it would be interesting, for sure, to put a spin on the gravity gun. If we did, it would probably not just be, the same as everything else. There would be something that we brought to it, basically.
Will we see Merkava tanks or any other type of tank? I'm assuming he's talking about weather control.
I think it'd be cool if the conscripts use a tank, but we don't necessarily have an execution plan for that yet.
When will we see, or when will we get the Tau cannon?
Div 3.
Would Arn Magnuson be canon or something? I don't know. I find it funny you destroy his casserole.
I don't know. Maybe Magnuson's around.
Have you figured out the ammo problem for the Tau cannon?
We have a pretty good idea of how to handle that.
Okay, if you were to do an RTBR Blue Shift, I assume he's talking about like a Barney spin-off submod. Would the story take place after Gordon escapes City 17 and Barney has to fight through City 17 himself?
We don't specifically have a plan for what a mod like that would look like yet, and if we did, I don't think we'd give away specific plot elements at this time. We may have a completely different idea from anything like that, so...
I mean, follow up to that if you want to answer this. Also, would Barney speak or not in this RTBR Blue Shift?
I imagine if we make a spin-off with a voiced character, they would be voiced in that. I think it would be a waste to not. Having a voice protagonist is an incredibly useful tool. We can introduce new elements more easily by kind of not like having it explain it to the player themselves, but like if a character has agency in the world, usually you can still allow them to retain some of that agency using voice acting. As we will do with Grigori. So, yeah. It's kind of a general answer to anything else like that.
Would you guys consider including an optional setting that makes the semi-auto fire the default primary on the shotgun?
No. Our general philosophy is the defaults, like we shouldn't give alternate options on turning off or modifying RTBR features. The intended experience is what you get. If you want a different intended experience, the add-on section is for that. And we very happy about that. Very happy that people do stuff with that and make alternate ways to experience RTBR. But our intended way will always be how we ship the mod. Anything else will have to come from outside.
Is the mechanic in RTBR of the weapons not auto-reloading when switching weapons sort of inspired by Half-Life? Because Half-Life 1 did the same thing.
I don't think I was specifically inspired by Half-Life. I think it was just a feature that we kind of thought, nah, let's turn that off. So.
Will the Annabelle be updated in any way in Salvation compared to Div 2?
We will be improving the materials for it. Oh, sorry, no, this is you. This is you. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm
it's
getting
got new
absent-minded.
animations.
Sorry.
But yeah, we've got just overall updates to it, but it's not going to be like a completely different model or anything. But yeah, it's got new animations for Grigori.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm getting absent-minded now because I'm starting to get worn out from all of this already. So after Minetown, I think we'll call it. So we've got map and a bit, and then we'll call it at that point.
Let's see. Will there be any more achievements?
Yeah, the current Cremator achievement's really just a proof of concept of the system, not the final form of it.
Do y'all have any ideas for non-beta weapon ideas?
I mean, the spin-offs might be somewhere where something like that is explored, but in terms of main RTBR, I can say that our philosophy is, like, to try and give these weapons more purpose than just, like, however they work in the beta. Like, the flare gun isn't just a lame flare gun, you know? It's like an incendiary grenade launcher. And we imagine other weapons would be very similar in that way.
Can we expect Triumph and/or Salvation before Division 7?
Yeah. Definitely before Division 7.
Very much so.
And I'm going to take over questions for now. For the Tau Cannon's ammo, could you add the battery charge or... Sorry. Could you add a battery or charger to the buggy to get the ammo and to explain why the buggy has infinite Tau Cannon ammo?
Not really on the cards necessarily. I mean, Half-Life 2 didn't feel the need to explain it. I think to a certain extent you don't have to explain some things if they just kind of work. Maybe, you know, it draws electricity from the engine or something, you know. Make up whatever excuse you want for it to make sense in your head. I don't necessarily feel like we need to do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Vortigaunt connected it to the Vortessence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a little baby Vortigaunt on the back who's kind of charging it for you, you know. It's like something from Borderlands, to be honest.
We've already answered this one, but how long will RTB, Salvation, and Triumph be in gameplay time? We answered that with Salvation would likely be around the same as Ravenholm was, and Triumph will likely be around the same length-ish as Portal 1. Are there going to be new enemies in Salvation? No comment at this time. The answer is like mostly not. The answer is most likely not. But do you guys have any plans for a bonus challenge mode for Redux like Easy 2? Salvation kind of acts as one. It's going to be a very challenging thing, and it is something to kind of replay and master as well. What made you decide to add the acid antlion workers? Was it just because of more variety?
I mean, I kind of explained it in the article, but like, you know, it's a good NPC, so's the hunter, you know? It's like, why wouldn't we use it? Like, it's done. Valve already did all the hard work of programming something that's interesting, and, you know, See, it just seems like a waste for us to just not use it just because. So
Is the Go Gnome the zombified alien assassin, or is it a different idea entirely?
it is Schrodinger's zombified alien assassin. It is a zombified alien assassin when the head crab's not on its head. It is a Go Gnome when there is a head crab on its head and you can't tell. So there you go.
Will there be any other instances where Gordon overhears the console cast, such as Street Wars?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
All right. I am back.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
I just ended on. Did you hear the last question I read?
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Okay. So, will we see Grigori eating any sustenance and salvation?
No, he'll heal with traditional means. He won't be eating head crabs. You won't be shoveling head crabs into your mouth as you kill them.
All right. How many test chambers will be in Triumph? Iridium?
Up test chambers, we're looking at about the length. Again, about the length of Portal 1, give or take. Nothing's set in stone right now, but maybe around 20 chambers, give or take.
Okay. Do you think RTBR would benefit from a director system like Left 4 Dead? I know it would be a headache to implement such a system, but I'd like to hear the thoughts of any developer on the mod.
As one of the two programmers, please don't. Please don't.
Yeah,
Please
no,
don't, Kralik.
yeah, no plans. I mean, there's a certain amount of randomization you can do anyway without like the AI director, right? But I don't think that actually serves a mod like this very well. Like it's not meant. You're not really meant to replay the same maps in RTBR 100 times with friends and master them, and then have an AI director throw curveballs in. You know, it's not really how it's meant to be. And for something like Salvation, it's challenging and all, but the point is also meant to be that you're meant to be able to build that mastery by kind of developing a mastery of the maps, sans randomization and RNG, right? So yeah, I don't think it fits RTBR at all.
Will the Jeep we drive in Division 3 of RTBR crash somewhere near like in the depot mod, or no?
I mean, there'll be a reason why you don't just drive past the depot, but that's a plot element I don't really want to go into detail about.
Okay, will we get any creator commentary, like he's talking about like the commentary nodes?
We have done some minor experiments with that. I think it'd be fun to do at some point, but like, probably makes sense when when the mod's like done, because a lot of stuff just changes, Like all of Div 1 is if we'd done a bunch of commentary nodes for Div 1.2, that commentary would be probably largely invalid by now, right? So it's kind of like it really only makes sense when we're content with the final edition of the mod to do some commentary talking about that stuff,
Will we see Grigori's final destiny and salvation, or will it be left open-ended like in Half-Life 2?
That will not be discussed at this time. Major plot points like that in general for most of the projects for this Q&A won't be discussed.
Could you and your whole team make a playable horror segment in Kraken Base, like a reference to episode 3 or something?
I mean, we have our own vague ideas for Kraken Base, but I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see how that stuff goes.
Will we get any more use of the digger, or did it break in Division 2?
That's pretty much the only place we expect the excavator to show up.
Will the spin-off mods intersect with the main story? I think we already answered this, didn't we?
We did, yes.
Next question. What Zen fauna will make an appearance in Division 3?
We've put some of that in a previous update. I'm not going to go into detail about all of it here. Oh, Jesus, that's a lot. Not going to go into detail about it here, but yeah, we will have more Zem fauna in Division 3.
Alright, that seems to be all of our questions here. There's another question that came up, but we already answered that. We're raising the bar, Redux episode 1 and 2. Yeah, we already answered that. New questions coming up here. Will we see another Gonarch and RTBR?
No plans right now. That doesn't mean a no, because I know we've, like, Gonarch's very cool. Maybe there's an argument to be made that having it appear more than once might devalue its appearance here. Right now, this is the only one we've actually got planned, so.
Will there be more citizen face variety in RTBR?
We would definitely like to. One we'd really like to bring back is the Travis face map. We actually have a lot of regular contact with Travis Brady, and he's a great guy. And the story about his credit or lack thereof on Half-Life 2 is just really heartbreaking. So we'd like to give him some special place in RTBR with something like that. So we'll have to see. But that would definitely be something we'd like to do long term.
When we actually, if I might add to this, I mean, Amicus, you could probably attest to this, but we have some ideas to put some new face models in the game as well, based on like our own real life references.
Yeah, it's all being kind of experimented with, but it all just comes down to asset creation and viability of that. But yeah, if we can add more, we always would if we want to.
We also have access to 3D scanners and stuff, so maybe that could lead to something with that, which would be very interesting. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Next question: will we get to wear the golden armor suit seen in the Kraken base teleporter scene?
No.
Will the advisors play a big role in RTBR, or are they just like in retail Half-Life 2, like observers?
Probably play a role like retail Half-Life 2 rather than the episodes.
Will the Neolinth influence the plot of the mod in any way, or are you trying to stick to the original beta story as much as you can?
We are not trying to do the alternate of that question, and not doing anything with the 9-lamp doesn't mean that we are. But I don't know. I mean, we might have some ideas here and there about how he factors in, but I also think giving that away here would be a shame, so I don't think we're going to go into more detail on that.
I guess in Division 4, after we escape the air exchange after it blows up, will we take the Jeep to a helicopter that will take us to the Arctic?
Yeah, that seems to be how I think we'd do it.
Do you plan to replace all retail models and sounds by the time Div 7 releases?
That would be interesting. I think we'd certainly like to replace, like... I mean, in terms of sounds, we've already replaced, like, a huge amount of the retail sounds, for creatures, physics, so on. We're certainly trying to target some high-impact model replacements. I guess we'll see how many we've gotten done by the time we're in Div 7. But, yeah.
Will Eli Maxwell share some personality traits as Eli Vance in retail?
He's quite a different character in RTBR right now. I'm gonna clear up a few more questions by booting up the fan art album and streaming this instead. So give me just a sec, and then we're going to call it there, I think.
The line I put in chat, anything above that will be answered. Anything after that, unfortunately, we won't have time for.
All right. Will we get more variation with the soldiers in the different divisions, like with the Raising the Bar soldier skins?
I can't remember how I did this, to be honest. So
Variation with the soldiers, different vision. Possibly. We've already got the ones for the wasteland and everything.
Right. How do you guys feel about the game in general, and what do you expect in the future to accomplish with this mod?
I feel great about it.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
I think we're doing damn good work.
Yeah. So, will we see more children NPCs? It seems like a waste to use them only in industrial.
Maybe. Depends really.
Is there much in the way of concept art, design documents, unused maps, and other RTBR stuff that you would like to publish later?
We've certainly talked about doing something like a raising the bar kind of idea of its own, where we kind of talk about our content, but we don't have any specific plans on that right now. There's certainly a lot of stuff that has been changed or didn't work out in RTBR, but would be interesting to show. But yeah.
All right. Well, that concludes the questions we'll be answering.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for coming to the stream and answering or asking questions even and all of that. Really appreciate everyone tuning in and taking a look. I hope this has been a very illuminating Q&A for all you guys. I hope that you're all looking forward to Salvation and Triumph just like we are. And yeah, stay tuned for not only updates for Redux, but we will be running standalone devlogs for Triumph and Salvation in the future. They won't always be bundled in together, so you can always tune in and check the Discord for more info on that. I think that's about everything. So, thank you everyone. Thank you to my co-hosts as well for joining me this afternoon, evening, whatever.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for your questions.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Thanks everyone. Good night.